And of course, the advent of the personal computer and the democratization of design. This last one is very important because it had two major consequences. The first is that the computer removed the last remaining scraps of handwork from the process of design. Secondly, it took the mystery out of the design process. In the days before the computer, the role of the designer still held a certain mystique to the business person because they couldn't understand the process, and they had a very clear understanding that it was something they couldn't do. The businessman conceded to the designer a sort of magician's authority in the process. But as the designer's tools became increasingly ubiquitous, design became something that had the perception of being easy, of being just a click of a button away. Up until the 1990s, for anyone to claim that their pubescent relatives could create the work of a designer would have been patently absurd. Today, it's commonplace. So when that wall between the profession and the amateur came tumbling down, designers started by whining, postulating, and then rapidly erecting barriers of wire, string, straw, and bits of tape to keep the outsiders out. Professional organizations discussed, debated, advocated, and in some instances implemented degrees of professional standards. Canadians, with our propensity toward collectivization, were particularly vocal in this regard. But more importantly, designers, particularly in North America, chose to reinvent themselves as business consultants, branding agents, and marketers. I remember becoming aware of this movement in the mid to late 90s as we first heard and then parroted the phrase that designers need to be seated at the table with the CEOs and business strategists. And it was at this point that I had a sudden and startling realization about myself. I didn't want to sit at the table with a bunch of business people. I had no interest in marketing, returns on investment, points of presence, or any other monetary goal-oriented conversations that might be taking place there. My days as a strategic designer were over, and my current career as a graphic artist began. So whose fault is it that contemporary design holds a contempt for art? How many times have you heard from within the industry, or perhaps even said yourself, design is not art? This is usually said vehemently and dismissively. Any designer who has ever been called artsy-fartsy knows the derision implied in return. Artsy-fartsy people are those who draw and doodle. Drawing is fun, doodling is idleness, and neither are considered serious activities. A common view of this person is that they are dreamy, unreliable, and possibly unclean. A while back, I was reading something by Natalie Angier in which she lamented the point at which the science-minded child, happily absorbed in the study of dinosaurs and chemistry, became the social outcast as the science geek. I could relate. In high school, my artistic skills earned me a certain respect from the unlikeliest of foes, read the football team, and may even have saved me from the ridicule reserved for most other social outcasts. But once in the real world, this drawing thing was seen as something that was admirable in a hobby, but highly suspicious in business circumstances. In all honesty, I think this comes from a very Protestant work ethic that work is not supposed to be fun. You're not supposed to enjoy it or love it. If you do, it's not work. I believe that the vast majority of people working today, slogging away at jobs in which they long for the weekend and dream of retirement, that they cannot bear the thought that some people should be allowed to make money doing something they truly love. So the response of most designers is to downplay the active, creative part of their work in favor of the strategic, results-oriented, business-minded part. A scan through most design websites will reveal an emphasis on forming partnerships, sound business objectives, industry leaders, distilling information, marketing communications, storytelling, and a great deal more that hints at creativity contained in a controlled and mindful environment, i.e. the back room. But design's embarrassment of its artistic roots threatens to do away with the very thing that makes it unique and valuable. That is, its value as something that truly differentiates us from most other business people, and more importantly, its value as a cultural force and visual heritage. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of this. When I think of the true value of design, I think primarily of the following. Its value as a cultural force, as something that can uniquely define an individual, a region, or a country, that can serve as a distinct marker in time and as such is considered worth preserving in archives and museums as an artifact of its time and place. And its value as an exceptional, potentially inspirational piece of work that is available for the general public to see and take aesthetic or mental pleasure from. These are, in my opinion, the two most important contributions that design can make to society, and they are derived from the artistic aspect of design, not the strategic, regardless of form or style. I'll explain why in a moment, but first I want to give you some examples of contemporary designers I know of who are working and creating exceptional work today. Work that's artistically based design, that's beyond serving its original intended purpose, transcends that purpose to become a cultural artifact. These are not all the people I know of, just a sampling, and as well there are many yet that I don't know of. So I want to start with Karl Martens, born in 1939. He's a Dutch typographic designer, and he's one of the most influential designers in the Netherlands. He's been practicing for 50 years, and his work is absolutely astounding. Annette Lens in France, she's in her early 40s, and her work has a very particular look to it, but a huge variety within that look as well. And she's got an incredible body of work and posters that are regularly seen in Paris. Shigeru Fukuda, who unfortunately died last year, from Japan, an incredible graphic artist. Richard Neeson and Esther de Vries from Holland did this amazing posters and corporate identity work, coins, really, really incredible stuff. Eike Koenig from Berlin does a lot of work with music, works for Nike, advertisements. There's a lot of constructed